John chapter 3, verse 16. For God so loved the world, that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him shall not perish, but have everlasting life.
Thus do we have the entire setup for the why of Christianity. The sole purpose for being Christian is this very promise of eternal salvation after death. We are familiar to varying degrees with the what of Christianity, which I interpret as being the salvation which humanity supposedly needs thanks to a combination of original sin and our sinful nature. The how and the who are the same. Jesus, if you're a Protestant at least. It's a little different for the Catholics, what with good works counting for at least a little something, provided you are forgiven for your various sins prior to death. However, the perceived need for salvation, and thereby a Savior, runs the gamut of Christianity. Much can be, and has been said, on the manner by which these ideas are imparted, the deceit and hypocrisy involved in the indoctrination process, as well as the gross duplicity required of any thinking person to act as God's instrument, increasing the proliferation of fundamentalist Christian doctrine in the face of clear evidence to the contrary. However, that is for another time. Today's topic is what happens when I die.
Christianity has much to say on the topic, ranging from where one, quote, goes post-mortem to how and why one is sent to heaven or hell. Some sects believe that judgment takes place for the individual immediately following death, while others believe that all souls are to be judged simultaneously on, appropriately enough, Judgment Day, or a final resurrection. There is heaven, hell, and in Catholicism, purgatory and limbo. Well, there used to be limbo, but never mind. Heaven and hell are the concepts with which we are all most likely familiar, and which are discussed most often by both sides of the debate.
If you're an atheist, you're probably thinking, what debate? There's no physical evidence for heaven or hell. There is no evidence for the soul either. Certainly not that it goes someplace. That's absurd. If you're a fundamentalist Christian, you're probably thinking, what debate? Heaven and hell are real physical places, both of which are mentioned at length in theology. There is no debate. Suffice it to say that this video does not set out here to change minds, though I won't be displeased if it does. Hopefully, it will present sufficient evidence and information about the reality of death to provoke thought and perhaps further discussion.
So, what do we know for sure? Biologically speaking, we know that there are several stages one goes through in the process of dying. General organ failure, cardiac arrest, and pulmonary arrest are among them, and the order of these failures and their root causes are case-specific. However, these failures can be corrected and resuscitation is still possible. That is, until we get to the brain. Once brain waves cease and the neurochemistry begins to sour, there is at this point no coming back.
Interestingly, it is quite possible to return from circumstances very similar to brain death, relatively unscathed. Returning from clinical death, or the ending of vital function, no pulse, cessation of breathing, etc., is not nearly as uncommon as it once was, nor is returning from coma. Cases exist in which individuals have returned to normal functionality even after their brains have been deprived of oxygen, and with very little if any measurable brain damage. The point is, death is a fact of life. There is no escape, and that can be an incredibly scary concept. This is why Christianity has so much to say on the subject. We say Christianity rather than merely the Bible, because many beliefs about the afterlife relate to the beliefs of individual sects, often entirely independent of the text.
This is insane. This is where I fucking grew up, alright? You wanna know why I'm angry? Alright, this is the kind of shit I had to deal with. Will you know people in heaven? This is in the newspaper. Will you know people in heaven? Okay. Yeah, for real. Listen to this fucking, this, alright. Most Atlantans agree that in the afterlife, we will see and know people we knew on Earth.
Regardless of the differences between denominations' individual beliefs as to how and why one goes to heaven or hell, and what heaven and hell are actually like, all denominations are united in the strength of their faith that their specific version of the post-mortem relocation exists. But why? Why is the afterlife so essential to Christianity? How does the concept serve the individual or the faithful at large? Undoubtedly, the root of the Christian afterlife lies in the fear of the unknown. This deep-rooted fear, intrinsic to all of humanity, gave rise to Christianity's power, the enticement, the promise of eternal salvation. It is a solution to quell all fears, one that is simple, easy to grasp, easy to spread, and one that relies, in most denominations, on a simple fact: faith alone in Jesus Christ.
Though the definitions and descriptions of heaven vary, there is little doubt that the promise of happiness and life everlasting, in any context within Christianity, serves several purposes. Firstly, as discussed above, it removes from the individual fears of death and the unknown in general. Secondly, it unites the faithful in two common beliefs: the need for and promise of eternal salvation. According to believers, this promise allows mankind to act in accordance with the will of God, Yahweh, or Jesus. Without this incentive, they argue, mankind has no reward to work for during life, and thus life would be meaningless and immoral.